And yes, hello everybody. How you doing? I am Dr. Alicia, and I am so happy that we are having a healing conversation. And today I have the honor of presenting to everybody the author of a very good book. And I read it over the weekend. Her name is Nikquan Lewis. Y'all know Nikquan. This ain't her first time on here. So everybody say hello to Nikquan. Today she is going to come and speak to all of you guys about her new book that she just published. The name of her book is When Trauma is Your Author. ... What happens when trauma is your author? So we're going to have a conversation about that today. We're going to have a conversation about how you are going to be able to recognize if trauma is playing an active role in your current situation. I know some of y'all out there, this is just who I am. Accept me for who I am. But maybe part of who you are is an attachment to all of the things you needed to become because of your trauma. Maybe who you are is something beyond that. So today we are getting ready to grow. So buckle up. We about to get bigger, and we're gonna take you on this ride today. So welcome to Nikquan, and I just want you to let us know, how were you inspired to write this book, When Trauma is Your Author, and how does it relate to you, your personal experiences and your professional experiences?
Yes, ma'am. So hey y'all. Thank you so much for having me back, Dr. Alicia. I love to always chat with you and coming on Fly Nubian Queen, speaking to the people. And so here we are. When Trauma is Your Author, the price your relationships pay and how to reclaim your story. That is the full title. And so a number of things inspired me to write this book. This book has always been in me. This is a resource that I wish was available when I was coming up, as somebody who was raised in abuse, domestic violence, addiction, all the things that comes with that, right? And so all of that comes into your parenting, your relationships. I was also a teen mom. I had my daughter. I have two children, both adults. Adulting, young adults is ghetto, but we'll get into that because that also is covered in the book. But I had my first child at 18 out of a lack of information, and also some risky behavior as a result of past trauma, right? And so not knowing that trauma was writing my story, and how that comes into your marriage, how it comes into your friendships, how it shows up at work, right? All of those experiences, and becoming a therapist, because I knew early on when I had my daughter at 18, and she had special needs at that time. And so I'm an 18-year-old, I don't have support. I got this baby. She's, has all these needs. I knew then that my story has to change. I cannot repeat the things that I've seen growing up, because my legacy means more. I need to be better for them. And so all of those experiences led me to become a relationship and sex therapist, because I wanted to dismantle the shame and the lack of education around sexual health, especially in our community. And so all of those things influenced my decision to be a therapist, and ultimately empowered me to write this love letter to the fellow disruptors who have decided that, yeah, I may have had a rough start, but I'm going to take the pen back from trauma and write a story that is rooted in my values, principles, and morals, and not just what I've been through.
This is so beautiful, Nikquan. And I just want to encourage everybody here today that your past does not always have to dictate your future. You can decide what kind of life you want. If you want to live a life of peace, if you want to live a life of where you're living mindfully, If you want to live a life where you are fulfilling your purpose, you know what your purpose is in life. If you want to live that kind of life, it is possible for you. I think what Nikquan is saying is that some of these past painful memories get in the way of you becoming what you want to become. All of you all are capable of being in a healthy relationship with another person. You have that capacity. You have the capacity to show up at work and to be a valuable citizen of this world. Those are possible for you, no matter what your background is. It does not have to dictate who and what you are. But if you're not able to recognize it, you're going to find yourself frustrated and stuck and depressed and sad. All of these things happen to you when you're not able to be aware. What advice do you have for somebody to just raise awareness? There's a bunch of people walking around pointing the finger. Racism on the job. Not to say that racism doesn't happen. They're pointing the finger about these people don't understand me. These men ain't no good. These women ain't no good. You can't trust nobody. They see the world as dangerous. That's a sign of trauma. So what would you say to somebody to help them kind of raise awareness of how does it look when trauma pays the price in your relationship? What does that even look like?
So, hi Ursula. Thank you for joining the conversation. Yeah. Okay, so for anybody out there who needs a resource to recognize if trauma is still writing your story and kind of where you are on that journey, go head on over to whentraumaisyyourauthor.com and there's a free assessment. Mm-hmm. But here are some things. Now, all the things that you said, Dr. Alicia, while some of that is true, right? Racism, some relationships is ghetto, there's pee in the dating pool, all of those things may be the case. But being able to identify the role that you play.
Yes.
And how you impact your relationships, what is motivating your decisions, that is how you will understand what role trauma is playing. For example, if you are a person who keeps picking the same partner over and over, you pick partners who mirror your wounds and not your worth, that's a sign that trauma may be writing your relationships. If you are in friendships where you continue to pour and there's no ROI for you, that's a sign that trauma may be influencing and impacting your relationships. If you go to work, understand that when we clock out at work, trauma doesn't clock out when we do. Okay. Mm-hmm. If you are a person that's at work and you play small because maybe growing up you learned that your voice didn't matter, and so you shrink and you let other people take credit for your work, that may be, there's a chapter in the book that is literally when trauma follows you to work, right? Mm-hmm. And so those are signs that trauma may still be impacting you and your relationships.
Oh, I think that's so great because a lot of times people aren't able to look at their part in things because they come from so much shame. Yeah. To be able to look at that would mean they would have to take ownership of some of the things in their life. It is so difficult for people to do that. And it's just like when I meet with clients, like we can't control the world. We can't control what happens. What you can control is you.
Yes.
You control yourself, how you respond to people. You can see the patterns is one thing, but then you can make the conscious decision to do something different. So how do you deal with shame? Because in order to look at yourself and see the role that you play, sometimes it's attached to so much shame that it's hard to move past it. And you have a choice to make. You can either fix what's going on and really be able to tackle the shame attached to it, or you can do like some people and it starts to develop into a personality disorder. And we know we talk about narcissism and we talk about all these things, but underneath those personality disorders is a very hurt child who's not able to connect with how the role that they play because of shame.
Because of shame, but also lack of skill, yes. Right? The first step is awareness. But it's not enough. You can't stop there. It's what are you going to do with it? And it's not enough to even say you can fix it. Does this person have the skill set to do so? And a lot of people don't. Accountability is something that is taught. It is a skill. Everyone is not, raised to be accountable, right? And so for those clients that we see and they struggle with accountability and being able to see the role that they play, that is a muscle. I like to call it a muscle that has to be strengthened, and sometimes skills that have to be taught. So I often take people back to the drawing board. What does accountability look like? Right? How do you build it? How do you take accountability for the things that you play? Because I teach every single person that comes in my virtual doors,
Yes.
it always takes two to break down a relationship. And sometimes that's what you accept, and sometimes that's your direct behavior. So being accountable to the role that you play is also empowering. Because like you said, you can't change anybody else, but you can change how you show up.
Oh my God, that's so great. I see more people coming in here. And so I just wanted to welcome everybody and just say, I'm having a great conversation today about an author of a new book that came out called When Trauma is Your Author. And what's the other half of it? When trauma is your author, what happens?
The price your relationships pay and how to reclaim your story. We're taking the pin back.
Yes, the price relationships pay and how to reclaim your story. We're going to talk about reclaiming your story because we all have had all of it. You know what? I'm sorry. Just being Black mean we got to have some trauma. Let's just face it. And, our history, racism, historical racism, all of those things play a big part. And you talk about that in your book. But I want to encourage everybody to go to the website, when trauma is your author.com, and check out this book, take the assessment, and then get that book. It's on Amazon too. Nikquan Lewis, Nikquan, Nikquan Lewis. She's the only one in the world probably with that name, so you can't miss her. Be sure to get that. And everybody, what do y'all notice? I want to say hello to everybody and let us know what happens when what price does relationships pay? Ursula's in here talking about don't stay stuck. So Ursula's saying sometimes we are stuck. Yes, in relationships. It's an illusion to be stuck in relationships. So anyway, I also want to remind people before we move on, I also want to talk to you guys about how to know when I have these great conversations, healing conversations. Be sure to text the word love, LOVE, to 87948. And then you get text message on when we have these healing conversations. You also get text message on anytime I go live. I'm coming here with solutions. I'm not going to sit here. I'm going to deconstruct the problem. But when you see a video with my face, you're going to get some really wonderful takeaways. That's my goal in life, is to try to educate anybody about all of the years of experience that I have as a therapist and all of my colleagues have as a therapist. We're here to just let you know what we know, because we spent a lot of hard time studying late at night, writing those papers, paying all that money to those universities to get those trainings. And so we're bringing it here to you free of charge. All you got to do is text love, LOVE, to 87948. And if y'all been doing that, you know Nikquan Lewis, you know how she is. She's very knowledgeable. She is a certified sex therapist, which, child, I looked into being a sex therapist. And I saw that list of criteria and I was like, I shut that page down. I was like, I'll let Nikquan come on and talk about it. And I'm telling you, she is all that and then some. But if you're also interested in working with me, you can contact me at coachingwithdralicia.com, and I will reach out to you and we'll have a consultation and we'll talk about how I can help you. Also, follow me on TikTok and Instagram, Coaching with Dr. Alicia. Be sure to do that. So now that I got that out of the way, we can continue talking about the price relationships pay and how to rewrite your story. Lord, let me see. You have a section in your book. Oh, by the way, go to her book, because her book is whentraumaisyourauthor.com.
Mm-hmm.
When you get that book, you're going to read her definition of trauma. And I will say, after 35 years of studying human behavior, academic, clinically, just naturally, your definition of trauma and the illustrations you have connected to trauma, I have yet today in my 35 years seen a better definition of trauma. Y'all want to know what trauma is about? Please get this book. I was sitting in the airplane reading your book, Nikquan, and tears were streaming down my face in the public. That's how powerful this book is. And I just want to say it is just the beautiful, most beautiful thing. I do want to talk about rewriting your story, but before I do, I want you to let everybody know the definition of trauma. We've now talked about how you know trauma shows up, but what is the definition of trauma? Because your definition is the best that I've ever heard and seen in my entire history. I'm gonna take your definition, Nikquan. I'm gonna give you credit for it, but I'm taking your definition. Let everybody know.
You can definitely have it. So first, what I like to do, and I did this at the author talk, is I like to start off with the APA, which is the American Psychological Association's definition, right? Because they're like the gold standard for us. And it's not a wrong definition. I just expand it because what it doesn't really it doesn't take into consideration our experience. It's important to highlight that this book highlights and centers the Black experience, especially Black women, because I'm a Black woman. So I don't speak for everybody, but there are things that we go through that others don't. And so the APA lists trauma. It says trauma is an emotional response to a terrible event like an accident, crime, natural disaster, physical or emotional abuse, neglect, experiencing or witnessing violence, death of a loved one, war, and more. Now, while that is absolutely true, and this is what people tend to think of when they hear, oh, someone has been through trauma, but trauma is also not having enough to eat growing up.
Thank you.
It's not having a safe place to sleep. It's not feeling heard. It's being shushed. It's learning shame around sexuality. Trauma is not just these big ticket items. It is those things. But it is also learning that you're not good enough for some reason. And then that colors you and follows you your entire life if you don't take the pen back and rewrite that story. Trauma shows up in so many ways. It's witnessing domestic violence, not just experiencing it, but witnessing it, which then colors your relationship with conflict. It's why you avoid conflict like the plague, or you on the opposite end and you're repeating some of those behaviors. All of these things are traumatic events and they color our stories.
And when they color your stories, you're distorted. Your perception of reality is so distorted that you can't have a regular conversation with another person because the information that they're giving you sometimes is interpreted through the lens of trauma.
Always.
So you don't even know that a person could be telling you, someone could reach out to you and say, hey, Nikquan, how you doing? I'm just checking in to see how you're doing, make sure everything is okay. If you are guided by trauma, your mind is telling you, what's she contacting me for? She all in my business and trying to sneak up on me. Who told her to do that? What's wrong with her? That's what happens when trauma is coloring how you see. That's a distortion.
Yeah.
The intention of me reaching out to you is really just because I was thinking about you. I love you and I want to know I want to make sure that you're okay. But when trauma tells your story, you can see something just as neutral as how you doing. What you doing talking to me about how I'm doing? What business is it of yours? You just see the world as hostile. Yep. That is distorted.
Yes. Yep. But it's your norm. So
It's
you
your norm.
won't know until either you may go to therapy or you do some kind of self-help. Therapy is not the only avenue of
Not
healing,
the only, yes.
but it is one. Maybe you read some self-help books, or you go to a coach, or you do some kind of work to understand that there are different perspectives.
Yes.
That is a way for you to see, okay, wait a minute, let me reconsider, what the lens that I'm looking through.
Yeah, and that is why I enjoy being a couples therapist, because I feel like the growth is so much there. And you can comment on that. This is just therapists having another conversation with another therapist, is that so much growth happens in the relationship that wouldn't happen if you see someone individually, because all you're getting is their viewpoint and you're thinking, dang, what's wrong with them? Oh, they must be something. And it takes a little longer before you start to realize, hey, this person's the common denominator. But if you have another person there with you, reflecting, you get to observe how they reflect back and forth to each other. And then you can comment on it. And believe it or not, simple little adjustments in how you relate to your partner is a growth opportunity, so much more so the individual. Have you found that to be the case too?
Absolutely. You only get that one perspective, but now I can kind of see you in action. When you kind of get really comfortable and you're not on your best behavior and the mask comes off. And
Yes.
absolutely, we
Yeah,
can help people to adjust how they communicate and also to self-regulate.
to self-regulate, because you can teach self-regulation skills because they are interacting with this other person. And in a sense, they have to make the choice to decide if they want to change. They have to make the choice to decide, am I going to continue to see my partner as the enemy because I feel like the world is harmful? This person is, my next of kin. Am I going to change? I have to make the decision. Am I going to see my partner as a threat, or am I going to make the choice to see my partner as a potential ally?
I like to extend that.
Yes.
I'm with that
Yes.
100%, but the partner also has to make it a safe space. So it's
Right.
both people, right? It's
Yes.
making the decision to be us against the problem. But
Yes.
both have to subscribe to that, right? And both
Mhm.
have to have the emotional safety or create the emotional safety and protect the emotional safety in order for that to happen.
Yeah, and to do that is going to take a lot of dialogue. It takes a lot of work. It really takes two people to make that commitment. I really love that. I don't want to get off into a tangent into couples, because that's the couples area. I could talk about that all day, trauma and your relationships. But I want to talk about taking the pen back. Like your book, which was so beautiful, emphasizes rewriting your story.
Yeah.
And it's, what does this process of reclaiming and controlling your narrative, what does that look like?
Okay. Hey y'all. Come on
Hey.
in. Come on in. So my train so I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I'm a certified sex therapist. And my training is in one of my main theories is in narrative therapy. I teach people, specifically Black women, how to reauthor their stories with sex and a number of things. And so in order to take your story back or reclaim your story, it starts with reauthoring, which means that you have gained the awareness, you have gained the skill set to interrupt the unhealthy patterns that trauma has passed down to you. You've made the commitment and the effort to do the work and to do the shifting. And then you rewrite your story by saying, I recognize that trauma has written the first half of my story. I am no longer willing to live out that story. So I'm going to identify my values, principles, and morals. I'm going to establish and maintain healthy boundaries because you learn how to do so here, right? I'm going to choose to have standards of relationship that inform my relationships, my friendships, my romantic relationships, and how I show up at work. So reauthoring your story is literally making the decision to utilize the toolbox that you will gain by reading When Trauma is Your Author, and to do something different, knowing that it is possible if you gain the tools to do so. It's not easy. So I don't want to make it seem like it's easy. I'm not just telling you what I read in a book. I'm telling you what I've lived as
Yes.
a person who has completely disrupted generational dysfunction in my family.
Yeah, it is. It's simple, but it is not easy. Like what you just spelled out just sounds so simple. But when you get into choosing standards and relationships, when you get into that sort of thing, it can become like really overwhelming. And it does require in rewriting that story to connect with that inner child,
Oh yeah.
connecting with it. And by the way, my husband was talking to me the other day about a rapper. His name is Kevin Gates. And I was like, Kevin Gates. I said, what rapper kept his government name or something? Usually a rapper always changes his name. So I was like, that is really intriguing. He was like, Kevin Gates just had a divorce. We should do a talk about it. And I was like, okay. And I listened to Kevin Gates' interview. Girl, but you know what? He is a great illustration of rewriting his story. He mentioned, there's a lot to be said about Kevin Gates, but one thing beautiful about what he said in the interview I heard was that writing for him was his form of therapy.
Mm-hmm.
That when he was going through tough things and he was thinking about his past, because his mom had him when she was 14 years old. 14, you a little child. Yes, Ursula, he is smart. I was really surprised by how smart Kevin Gates was. But he said the pen. He said, I got through really hard times. He was in prison. He had all of these sort of, he kicked a woman and did all these sort of kind of traumatic things that shows that he had all this trauma that he's carrying around with him. And he said it was being in prison by himself, not talking to anybody, where he was able to, he learned about meditation, he learned about mindfulness, he learned about growth and development and how to get into the subconscious mind, how to heal a lot of things. He's got a long way to go, clearly. But he said writing those songs was what helped him process all of the things that was happening with him. And he spoke about his inner child. I had never seen someone go to prison and actually choose that opportunity to, evolve in that sort of way. Now, in terms of him and his relationships with women, I think he's got a very, very long way to go. A very long way to go. Very long. Very. Anyway, but I just saw and I just felt like as Black people, we got the music.
Mm-hmm.
It comes so naturally to us in a sense, maybe sanctioned that way, who knows? But Black people got the music. And so writing it out in that way, that narrative therapy of rewriting your story and putting it in even a memoir. I read memoirs all day long. That's all I do is read someone's story because I learn from other people's stories. So I just want to say that is great. I think all Black women need to write a memoir.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's extremely therapeutic. And for Kevin Gates, while he definitely says some wild stuff,
Yeah.
He's very well spoken, and I commend him for finding his path to healing. And I want to highlight what you just said as far as he goes. Healing, people think that even the terminology people use is healed. I put in the book, there is no such thing as healed. Healing is a lifelong journey. Right. I still get activated as a person who grew up in domestic violence and around it. I still get activated. I just don't respond the way the 20-year-old Nikquan with no skills and no emotional regulation. I don't respond that way. I don't react, right? Today I'm able to respond, but I'm not perfect. So healing is a lifelong journey. And if you don't have the skills, so the goal with trauma is to be able to recognize your triggers, and to create a new relationship with them so that you are managing them and they are not controlling you. And that's kind of where I live today for the most part, but ain't none of us perfect.
No, there's no, listen, get out of the perfection, because there's no such thing as a perfect person, and there's no such thing as a perfect family. There's no such thing as a perfect childhood. How are you going to ever grow? How are you ever going to leave home if everything was perfect? You got it.
Why would you?
It's a necessary process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And you have to have challenges along the way. And there's for sure no such thing as a perfect marriage.
That's
but
right.
You mentioned the triggers, and I just lit up because that was the word I wrote down, because you got to get ahead of your triggers. Because,
as much as possible.
As much as possible, because that is how you are able to live your purpose.
Yes.
You know, and you are never going to be doing it if you're just walking around reactive and letting people control. You're giving the control away. When you recognize your triggers, you're in control of what happens to you.
Yeah.
You know, you're able to anticipate, okay, when this happens, I'm going to do this, and I'm not going to get me off my path because I have a life to live. I have these values, these principles that I'm going to adhere to. I have a covenant, you know, and nothing's going to get me off my path. And what is that the triggers will do that if you're not even cognizant of it.
Yes. Yes. And I would say walking in your growth more than anything.
Yes.
Walking in your growth. We got a question here.
Oh, okay. Look at this. Thank you, Ursula. Okay, Ursula has a question. Opening up to my testimony to move forward from the trauma of my life? She's asking the question. Probably, how do I open up to my testimony so that I can move forward from the trauma of my life? How's she going to open it up, Nikquan? I got some thoughts, but you tell me what you think.
Okay. And if that's not what you meant, Ursula,
Correct
definitely, yes, please do. I am I'm always mindful of language. Standing on how
how to move forward from the trauma of my life. How about
that? Rewrite it, Ursula, because we want to make sure that we speak to what you're referring to.
Let's see what she says. Moving forward from the trauma of my life. What would you say to somebody who needs to move forward from the trauma of their life? Yes. Okay. How can she do that?
So let's see here. So it depends on, the journey is the same. One is recognizing that it's a journey. It's recognizing that it's a journey. It's being kind to yourself. It's being patient with yourself. One thing I tell people is that when they come see me, you didn't get this way overnight. The demographics, like people that I work with, are like 35 through 60, I'll say, right? And so you're talking 30 years oftentimes of life experiences. So you didn't get this way overnight. It's not going to be an overnight fix. So one, being patient with yourself, understanding that this is a journey. And I do utilize it as a testimony, because now it's no longer shame, right? I can stand on what happened to me, and I know that I am more than the trauma. I am more than the mistakes. I am more than what has happened, right? I'm more than any poor decision that I could have made. And I externalize. So being a narrative therapist, I do what's called externalizing, which means separating. I am here. Trauma is over here. I am not a traumatized person. I am a person that has experienced trauma. I am not a depressed person if I dealt with depression. I'm a person that has depressive symptoms. I'm a person that has anxious symptoms, or that deals with anxiety. So externalizing gives you the power to get rid of this or to manage this. Because if you are the power, if you are the problem, right? If you are a depressed person, now you're the problem. You can't, what are you going to do with you? Right? You can't get rid of you. But if you separate the two, now I can treat what's going on here.
That is so beautiful, because Ursula is healthy. The trauma, that's what's dysfunctional.
Yes. Yes. That's it. That's it. That's all. It is trauma's fault. So we like
Yeah.
don't even put trauma in a chair over here and act like
Yeah.
they're here. And I'm talking to trauma, right? As if they are the problem, not me.
Yeah. That is so good. Okay. Let's see if we got another question. I love these questions. All right, let's see who is Indoro. Hey, he said, can these black immigrants ever wait? Can these black immigrants even be redeemed? Sister Alicia, you should factor in these folks' country that where they get down. What?
No.
What does this have to do with what we're talking about? They are happy to be here amongst us, but them, I'm not sure. Okay, I don't know. What do you think about? I don't know. I know you know I want to talk a little bit about people who navigate here, come here from other countries, immigrants.
Mm-hmm.
Woo, boy, you start listening to some of their stories about how they came here from other countries, especially when it's like the conditions in their home country is just totally awful. That transition, that moving from one country to the next, it number one, it makes me realize how privileged I am being born here in a relatively safe place. Number one. So just having a United States passport, here's one right here. Just having this little passport is a privilege.
Yeah.
Is a privilege. And for many people, that is not a privilege, especially during these times where we're in a society right now where the dominant society is blaming a scapegoating an entire group of people about our problems. It's supposed to be on these poor, helpless individuals. So yeah, I mean, I think that trauma it's global.
It is.
You know, it's not just here, it is global. And Black people have been on the receiving end of a whole lot of mess. Yeah,
absolutely.
Comment on that.
So let's highlight Ursula responded, and
Okay.
you want to?
Oh yeah, let's see what Ursula says. Okay. I know that I have to open up and be able to accept my testimony and not be sensitive to it because I've never shared it with anyone, but they consider me one of the strongest. But they don't even know how I got to be strong because I didn't want to allow myself to continue to live like what I've seen in my family. Yeah, this is really heavy.
Oh yeah,
because
it's very common.
It's hard to be vulnerable.
It is.
Because no one cared about you.
Yeah. Yeah.
The vulnerability. And I think that people, when we talk about how the price that relationships pay, you're the stellar partner to your spouse, but you won't allow yourself to really be vulnerable enough to have real intimacy and connection.
Well, that's two parts,
yes.
Right? You may not allow yourself because of rigid boundaries, if there's a wall up because of what you've been through. And then, of course, is your partner creating that space. But she said something, Ursula, you said something so common, and I want to highlight it and not be sensitive to it. It's important to normalize, even though I hate the word normal, because we all normal for everybody is different. But you get to feel about your testimony however you feel. Your feelings are valid. You get to be sad about it, hurt about it. It's when we sit in it and it colors our decisions, it colors our relationships. That's when it becomes problematic. So I tell people, when you are managing emotions, identify it, give it space. And do your best to let it move through. And that doesn't mean, okay, sadness be gone. No, that means I have given it space. So I've sat, maybe I've journaled about it. I've listened to some music. I've let it be. And then when I'm ready for it to pass through, I'm going to get up and interrupt that thought loop by journaling something else, some uplifting music, calling a friend, taking a walk. Right? Doing some kind of self-care that helps me to interrupt that thought loop. But I don't want you to think that you don't get to be sensitive about it. You can feel the way that you feel, but if your feelings are, if you are doing more reacting, which is emotion based, instead of responding, which considers the logical part of your brain and your emotions, that's indication that you're not regulating your emotions. That's what gets us into problems. How you feel is not the problem. How you exhibit it gets us into trouble.
Yeah, and just using your testimony to journal about it over as many times as it takes, we'll find that you're like, you know what? I'm tired of thinking about this. I think I'm done. I think I'm done, and I am ready to move on.
Not only that, it's important to know that you cannot heal what you will not speak. And what that means is that you don't have to tell everybody your business, but you have to accept it for yourself.
Yes.
That's what that means. So acknowledging it in your journal, you cannot heal what you will not speak. And
Yes.
so that's why things like therapy, journaling, coaching, a trusted friend,
Yes.
right? These things are so important because you don't have to deal with it on your own. But as Black women, I'm looking at your picture, Ursula. As Black women, we have been taught to prioritize others.
Yes.
We wear the strong woman cape that we did not give to ourselves, but we have been given it by others, and we have to be the strong one. We have to do all the things. We have to care for all the people. But it's important to know that we participate in that as well. Because if I'm in a relationship and I'm constantly pouring, and I'm never asking for my needs to be met, I'm teaching this person that I don't have any. I don't have any needs. And they can continue to dump, or they can continue to go to me as a strong person because I continue to show up. So look at the role that you play.
And women, it's almost like you can't win for losing. You take on the emotional baggage of everybody in the family. You know, you want to have a connection with everyone, but I mean, even me, like the kids come home from school, I purposely do not book clients around the time where I know my kids come home from school so they can come down here and they can talk to me about all of their problems. And, you know, as neurotic as they may seem, it's a big deal for somebody in high school, right?
Yeah.
You know, so I talk about their issues and I carry that on, including my husband and everybody in my family. And then I have to like remind myself, Alicia, you have got to be able to have a place where you can get this off your chest because I'm carrying everyone in the load. And I do feel like I'm so important to everybody. It feels really good.
Yeah.
I get my purpose with that. So, you know, every once in a while, I do deliberately take out time just for myself. Every day, I have a daily plan for me to just be alone. I shut everybody out. There's times every single day where I have to decompress. I go on retreats. I love retreats, girl. We got to do a retreat or something to heal trauma. A healing retreat is so wonderful. But all of these things that all of us need to be able to do. But in order to carve out that time for yourself, you have to be able to speak up. You need to be able to talk about it. And you have to be comfortable being able to receive help. And to do that, you have to challenge yourself to be vulnerable. Notice, that's my homework assignment for all y'all Black women out there watching. Pay attention to all of the times where you have felt that you needed to be strong, where you could have been vulnerable, but you decided not to be. Pay attention to when that happens, because without the vulnerability, you're going to feel alone in your issues and you're not going to be able to connect.
Yep. And so to take that a step further, pay attention to it, but explore. Like, what is it that made you feel strong? Is that your protector coming out? Versus the vulnerability is risky, right? If you are a person that has been disappointed a lot or rejected a lot, right? Vulnerability feels scary. So what do you need to help you to be vulnerable? That's your exploration. So when we get triggered, I want everyone to consider that as now an invitation to explore what's going on around that emotion, right? That's your key to being able to manage it, and also telling people what you need and asking for what you need and allowing yourself to receive it. And I don't care if you use the word ready. I'll be mindful of readiness. I teach readiness versus willingness. readiness, or you said comfortable, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you're not comfortable, but it's like sometimes you're afraid. Sometimes you got to do it afraid. Sometimes you're not comfortable and you got to do it anyway, right? You may not be comfortable with vulnerability, but are you willing? Are you willing to take a step towards that direction?
Let me tell you how difficult that is. Because when I ask for what I need, and another person who I trust says, yes, I'll give you what you need, that means I have to wait around for them to actually deliver it. And sometimes that is very, very hard for people to do. They just would rather just do that waiting around, that gap between you asking for what you need and that person saying, yes, I will deliver it. Between that commitment and the deliverance, it is like an eternity, and it is the most frightening situation for many people who aren't accustomed to that.
Yes.
Woo, that's a big ask.
That's me. And then guess what? I'm going ahead and do it on my own.
I'm going to do it on my own. And it's funny because you ask for what you need and then the other person says yes. And you just be like, screw it. I just do it by myself anyway. And how that other person feels like, dang, you didn't think I was going to come through for you like I said I would? They were like, I don't know. I can't trust it. So,
yeah.
Oh my God.
And you're teaching that person that you don't have needs, right? That they can't be trusted. It's easier. It feels easier to do it yourself. But think about, Karen, I want you to think about what you're communicating, right?
Yeah.
If you're whoever you're in relationship with, yes, it's easier to do it yourself. But think about, one, you're decreasing your capacity. You're reinforcing that you don't necessarily need help. And then you're teaching whoever you're in relationship with that you don't need help, which you're guaranteeing that you don't get the help that you probably would like.
It's a paradox.
Yeah, a freaking hamster wheel. Yeah, we got to get off the hamster wheel, y'all. We got to get off the hamster wheel.
We got to get off the hamster wheel because let me tell you something. We are literally dying from this. Like Black women have not dealt with their trauma, trust issues. We can't let go of anything. We want to be like Karen. It is easier to do it yourself in the short term. But in the long term, just, it's not helping you because you're taking a physical toll on us. And even men, we talk about Black women.
We got a comment from a man right here.
Oh, what did he say? What is Terrell? That's a guy. He said, what did he say? I don't know how to receive help as a man.
That's good.
I don't want to be a burden for anyone because most people don't want to help. If I need help, I will offer some sort of benefit for them.
So this is good, Terrell. And thank you for your vulnerability with this, because this is exactly what we're talking about. So with reauthoring your story, in order to reauthor it, you first have to understand where the narratives are showing up. And a narrative is a story that the brain will create, and there is no evidence. I'm talking hardcore evidence that this narrative is true. Yes. Because your statement says most people don't want to help. That's a narrative all day long, because the reality is you can't speak for most people, right? I want to help people. That's why I do the work that I do. And I don't do it because of what you can do for me. I do it because it's my purpose, it's my passion, it's my mission, right? And so if you are around people that don't want to help, I invite you to look at your friend circle or look at your support system. Look at the family that you are in. Family is important, but all relationships as adults are choices.
God, that is so funny. And Black men, on the flip side of that, he really is talking about that in a really great illustration, because a lot of Black men look at duty and obligation.
Yes.
Above and beyond asking for what they want and their own needs. Some men think only thing that I really can provide to anybody is, what do they say? Protection and money. And that's it. A lot of men walk around being emotionally needy but they really don't feel like they can talk to anybody about it because they feel like all they can ask for and all they can give, actually, all they can give is money, obligation. They want to do things and show up because of duty, but it's really difficult. And they put all this pressure on themselves. I read a study. Society puts a pressure on them.
Creates that.
How can we not? And I read a study that said that your blood, when you have high blood pressure, only like 15% of high blood pressure is explained medically. 18% of high blood pressure is emotional.
I believe it.
That is the pressure that you're putting on yourself, and there's no good release of that, and that it has an effect on your body. I thought that was something that I never thought that much of a percentage would be something that can't even be explained medically. So it is the stress in your life, and the things that stress you out is connected to past painful memories. So paying bills every month, some people, it stresses them out, even if they got a ton of money in the bank.
Oh, yes.
Financial stresses them out.
Financial trauma is completely, oftentimes, irrational. I have financial trauma from being 18 and being homeless. And so today I struggle with like allowing my husband to handle the finances because I am afraid of my children not having a place to call home. And it has nothing to do with him and his skill set. It is completely the irrational thoughts that, fuel my decision. And I mean, if it were only that, maybe, we would do something about it. But also I'm better. I'm better when it comes to finances. So that's my strength. Right. And so financial trauma has nothing to do with it. But Terrell, I encourage you to, maybe you might have to rebuild your social support network, which are the people around you. So, and teach them that you do need help. You do have needs, and you don't have to have transactional love.
Yes.
Right. I have to do something for you in order for you to do something for me. If that is your relationship.
Quid pro quo is what happens when a relationship is failing.
Yes. If you're required to exchange something in order for support, that is a symptom of your relationship, and the relationship isn't healthy. That relationship isn't built on standards, values, principles, and morals. It's built on something else. And so Beatrice says, what if there is no support system? Well-rounded people have a healthy social support network. That don't mean you have to have a whole crew of folks, but you do need a couple. And so if you don't have a support system, Beatrice, I encourage you're going to have to get out in these streets. You're going to have to meet some people, go to a coffee shop. You can get online if you choose to, but you're going to have to connect with people to build that social support network. You may not have it, but it can be built.
It takes courage.
Oh, yeah.
A whole lot of courage. Do it anyway. You might be scared. Do it anyway.
That's right.
All the things you're worried about that's going to happen. Let me tell you, it's not going to happen. Rarely does it ever happen the way you think it is going to happen. And I'm certain all of us have people in our life that really love us, is waiting to help us out. I had my Healing Haven group, and I give assignments to them. And one assignment is to ask somebody for help. And they're scared to do it. But as soon as they ask someone for help, they come back and they'll be like, I really thought that person was going to say no. And they were like, I was waiting on you to ask me. Thank you. And as a result, they were able to strengthen their bonds with people around them. There's people right there around them, and they can walk around, tell themselves, I don't have nobody I can count on. But yes, you do.
And if you don't, you have to create it. Right?
It's the vulnerability. Easy to do.
Well, I don't know about easy for some, because if life has taught you that people gonna stab you in the back, right? If trauma has taught you that no, it's not safe to trust people. You have to unlearn that. You have to reauthor your story with trust, and you have to be vulnerable in order to connect.
Yes, that takes courage. So definitely it's gonna have to take some courage to connect with people, because That is so important. Everybody, hey, let me tell you, I'm having a great conversation with fellow therapist Nikquan Lewis, and she's an extra special therapist because she's a sex therapist, marriage and family therapist, and just a therapist. So I love this. She has written a book. The name of her book is When Trauma is Your Author. And what's the rest of it? When Trauma is Your Author, the price relationships pay and how to rewrite your story.
Reclaim.
Huh?
Yep. The price your relationships pay and how to reclaim your story.
Reclaim your story. We're rewriting it, but we also reclaiming it. I love that.
Right.
And you can go to the website, whentraumaisyourauthor.com. Get a hold of this book. When you read this book, get some tissue out because you're going to be bawling. This book made me cry. She goes in on this book. I was just like, on the airplane reading this book, I was crying like a baby. Half of that stuff you were talking about, you were just talking about your own experience. I didn't have your experience, but I just know so many people that have, and I was just connecting to that. It's the empathy that you raised in me. Oh my God, I almost want to cry now just thinking about it. It's so sad. But anyway, okay, so we want to talk about that. And let me see. Okay, two things I want to say. One thing, I want to let everybody know that you can text the word love, LOVE, to 87948 to get information on when I go live, to have healing conversations like today. You also get information from me about healthy relationships, all of the wonderful things that I know. I also, if you're interested in working with me, you can go to coachingwithdralicia.com and then follow me on Instagram and TikTok. I don't be posting the same thing on Instagram that I do on TikTok. So you got to follow me on both platforms, see what I'm doing, see what's up, what you can learn on those platforms. And we're here talking about Nikquan. It is, past the top of the hour. It's late, y'all. Okay, so let me ask you some more questions. We talked about connecting to your inner child. We talked about rewriting your story. Now I want to talk about the biggest takeaway. What is the biggest takeaway that you hope readers will gain from this wonderful book about trauma?
My biggest takeaway for sure is that you are more than what has happened to you. And you do not have to continue the way that you began. That is the biggest takeaway. Change is possible for those that want it. It may not be easy, but it is possible. There are resources, and you don't have to stay stuck. Like Ursula, I believe Ursula said, you don't have to stay stuck, but it's not enough to know, okay, I don't want to be stuck. So many people that I work with every single day, they just need the tools to be able to do that. And so, biggest takeaway, you are more. You are more than anything that has happened to you. Statistically speaking, 90% of all people have experienced at least one traumatic event. That is almost all of us. And what that means is that we are walking around with stories that we didn't even write. But you can take the pen back if you are ready and willing to do the work. So again, if you don't know where you are on your journey with trauma, and also be mindful of language. It's not my trauma. It is your trauma. Trauma doesn't belong to you, and it doesn't have to continue writing your story. But if you want to know where you are, there's a free resource on whentraumaisyourauthor.com, and head on over there. Not only is it a free resource to tell you where you are, it gives you resources and information to be able to start. Let's get to work, right? Let's get to work. It's not enough to know that something is wrong or that you want to change. Once you know that there are some unhealthy patterns, what you gonna do about it? Let's get to work. Let's get to work. And Dr. Alicia, I wanted to kind of go over the index, the table of contents, so people know kind of what's in the book, right? So there's 3 parts. The first part is understanding the cause of trauma. That includes what is unresolved trauma, recognizing the patterns and their cause, trauma in the body and mind, because the body keeps the score.
Yes.
Trauma will have cortisol, which is released out, but I want to say by your liver, and Rex shock. It is a hormone that will ruin organs and all kind of things. This is what happens when your body is stressed, right? Trauma can impact migraines, stomach issues, all kind of things that you may think is just because you getting old, but no, it's because you got unresolved trauma and it's stressing you and your relationships out. Parenting while healing. Listen, as a parent of 2 adult children, parenting while healing myself has been a journey, an absolute journey. And so if you are a parent and you are still doing your healing work, this chapter is for you. Friendships and the strong friend mask. I get a lot of reactions out of that because those of us that continue to show up, just letting people pour, and you never ask for anything, and then you wonder why you running on E, because you participate in that, right? So, but guess what? You don't taught people how to treat you, and that you didn't have any needs. You can teach them something different. Okay. Chapter 7, when trauma follows you to work. So anybody that's in corporate, I take this I train out of this chapter, and let you know that trauma doesn't clock out when you do. It continues, right? So part 2, breaking the cycle. Chapter 8, this stops with me, then interrupted generational dysfunction. The next chapter, parenting with awareness, boundaries with family.
Yes.
When folks start creating boundaries, then folk don't like it now.
They don't like it. But that's okay.
They'll be all right.
They'll be all right.
The next chapter, when love looks like overcompensating. As a parent who grew up with lack, I found myself over here, and now I'm creating entitled children because I'm willing to go through hell and high water behind mine and giving them all the things that I didn't have. But it is imperative that we teach them no, and that we teach them boundaries, and we have boundaries with them. So
Boy, let me tell you, I'll be like, oh no, not my baby. My baby gonna have her stuff. I say that all the time. I'm like, no.
Yeah, but entitled children, ghetto, 10 out of 10, don't recommend.
Thank you.
Then the next chapter is why self-love is non-negotiable. Then the path to healing, doing the inner work, and rebuilding connection with my H.E.A.L framework, which is about relationship repair. And then rewrite the narrative and heal together. And then the conclusion. And there's some resources in here as well for you.
Yeah, I put the website in the chat, and I just think everybody should just get it. It don't even cost that much. It's like, it really is really affordable. There's workbooks. Come on, Nikquan, it's workbooks. It's all sorts of stuff that goes with this. This is beautiful.
Let's talk about that really quickly.
Yes.
Every chapter has a QR code.
Yes.
And this QR code takes you to a free guide to healing, that every chapter has specific journal prompts, affirmations, assignments to help you to implement the changes that you want to see. And so that's completely free, that a part of the book. Because I don't want you just to read it. This book is not here to just inspire. No, it's here to transform. And not just transform you, but transform your legacy. Generations.
At your own pace. It's at your own pace. As comfortable as you are with the material, you can read it like I did and put it down and walk away, because I had to walk away. I was like, "Ooh, that was heavy." And then I had to come back to it. And it's as you go, it's at your own pace. And I think that is so beautiful, because there's some people who are like serious and roll up their sleeves. I'm ready to get past this. And then there's some other people where there's some heavy stuff that comes up, like it did for me. I was like, ooh, this book is deep. So it is really a great conversation today, Nikquan. I got to tell you, I could talk more, but I'll bring you back on so we can continue these conversations, because we're talking about each one of you really living your purpose without having anything hold you back. And the only thing that's holding you back is really yourself. You're believing a lie. Trauma is a lie.
A liar.
Is an experience that tells you something about yourself that is not true.
That's right.
And you start to believe it. That's really what it is. And this book will help you get past that. Yes, Keisha, I should make this part of my book club. I should really make this a part of my book club. I'm gonna write that down. I got a whole list of books because we're almost done with our first book. So I've got a whole nother list of other
Yes,
books that I'm going to use in my book club. And I think that'd be great to use this because it really gives us everything that you need to be able to just enjoy yourself in life. Never experience stress again. There's no reason you should experience Stress comes, you may have stressors, but the actual experience of stress, being dysregulated, fighting and arguing online, fighting and arguing with your friends, all of that stuff is not necessary. You can actually live a life of peace and mindfulness. It can happen. And this book will help you get there. So, Nikquan, thank you for taking us a journey through your life, a journey through your book. I think this book is a beautiful accumulation of the fact that trauma is really a gift.
Mm.
And the gift has been this book. So thank you, trauma. You just gave us something to talk about. Anyway, so everybody text the word love to 87948 so that you can get information on when I go live and information about healing and information about healing conversations, and also with the book club. Be sure to do that. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at Coaching with Dr. Alicia. And if you need to get a hold of me, go to coachingwithdralicia.com. Get this book, When Trauma is Your Author, by Nikquan, Nikquan Lewis. You can put it into Amazon and get your book there. It has workbooks, QR codes. It is all designed for us as Black people and what we need to do to become what we know we need to become in life. We only got one life to live. Why be stuck? Time goes by fast.
It is going by very fast.
It goes by fast. Live your life of freedom. We want to be free. And trauma is a prison.
It sure is. It sure is. And one that you can leave when you choose, when you get ready to do the work. And so it's available on Amazon if you want a unsigned copy on Amazon. But if you want a personalized copy signed by me with a special note, then go to my website, whentraumaisyourauthor.com. You could also follow me on all socials at Intimate Connections, PLLC, which is the name of my private practice. And you definitely want to follow me because I have some fabulous news coming within the next week or so. So,
okay.
Yes.
Yay, wonderful. Okay. Well, trauma might be your prison, but this book is a key.
Yes.
So unlock yourself and get out. You got the key to get out. It's like no one's putting you in prison. It's in your mind. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you, Ursula, and everybody else who, Karen, thank you. Who else commented today? Let's see, who else?
We got Tamara. Definitely get your book, girl. We got Artery.
Jane, how y'all doing? Anyway, goodbye, everybody, and I will see you next Monday for another healing conversation. Bye, everyone.
Bye.